I never thought I'd have the guts to talk about this. Sometimes the truth hurts more when it's your own family behind it. But when it's the person who promised to love you in sickness and in health, that's a different kind of pain. My name is William Whitaker. I'm 26 years old, and this is what really happened. 4 days. That's how long the doctor said I had left. I was lying in that cold hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped every few seconds like they were counting down the time I had left. The fluorescent lights above me buzzed. The smell of disinfectant mixed with something I can't describe. Maybe fear, maybe death. Sophie was sitting next to me. My wife, the woman I'd been married to for 3 years. She was holding my hand, but her grip felt different, cold, mechanical. I had my eyes closed. I was exhausted, sure, but I wasn't as weak as I looked. I was listening, observing. Something in my gut told me to pay attention. The doctor had just left the room. He'd given us the news with that practiced sympathy doctors use when they've done this 100 times before. 4 days, maybe 5 if I was lucky. My liver was failing. Complications from an infection nobody saw coming. Sophie squeezed my hand, and then she leaned in close. I could smell her perfume, the same one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She thought I was too weak to hear her, too far gone. She whispered, "Finally, in 4 days, everything will be mine." I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't move. I didn't open my eyes. I kept my breathing steady, shallow, like a man who's already halfway gone. She smiled. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it in her voice when she spoke again, this time to herself. 4 days. Just 4 more days. Then she let go of my hand. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out of the room like she was leaving a business meeting, not a dying husband. I opened my eyes. The ceiling tiles had water stains. I counted them. 7. I focused on that instead of what I'd just heard, because if I let myself think about it too much, I'd lose my mind. 4 days, everything will be mine. Not ours. Mine. I stared at the IV drip in my arm, the clear liquid moving slowly through the tube. I thought about our house, the one I'd bought before we got married, my truck, my savings account, the life insurance policy I'd taken out 2 years ago when Sophie said it would be responsible. She'd been so insistent about that policy. $500,000. I closed my eyes again, but this time it wasn't from weakness. It was from rage. Let me take you back. 3 years ago, I met Sophie at a friend's barbecue in Austin. She was 24, beautiful, and she laughed at my jokes even when they weren't funny. She worked as a dental hygienist. I was a project manager for a mid-sized construction firm, making decent money, saving up, planning for the future. We dated for 8 months before I proposed. It felt right. She felt right. The wedding was simple. Her family came down from Oklahoma. My parents flew in from Oregon. We had the reception at a ranch outside the city. She cried during her vows. I thought they were happy tears. Maybe they were, back then. The first year was good. We bought a house together. Well, I bought it. She moved in. We painted the living room together. We adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Cooper. We talked about kids. She wanted 2. I wanted 3. Everything seemed normal. But then little things started to change. She started asking about my accounts, how much was in savings, what my 401k looked like. She'd bring it up casually, like she was just curious. "Babe, do we have enough for a down payment on a second property? Or, how much do you think we'd get if we sold the truck?" I didn't think much of it at first. Married couples talk about money, right? But then she started pushing for that life insurance policy. "What if something happens to you?" she'd say. I'd be left with nothing. I told her she'd have the house, she'd have my savings. She'd be fine. But she insisted. So I got the policy. $500,000. She was the sole beneficiary. I signed the papers on a Tuesday afternoon. She kissed me and said, "Thank you for taking care of me." I thought I was being a good husband. Now, lying in this hospital bed, I realized I'd been an idiot. The infection hit me 3 weeks ago. It started with a fever, then chills. Then I couldn't keep food down. Sophie drove me to the ER on a Saturday night. They admitted me, ran tests, found the infection in my liver. Sepsis, they said. Aggressive. Rare. The doctors tried antibiotics. They tried everything. Nothing worked. And then yesterday, Dr. Patel came in with that look on his face, the one that says, "I'm sorry, but there's nothing more we can do." 4 days. Sophie cried. She held my hand. She told me she loved me. I wanted to believe her, but something in the way she looked at me, it didn't match her words. Her eyes were too focused, too calculating. So when she left that night, I asked the nurse to stay behind. Her name was Elena, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, tired eyes but a kind smile. She'd been taking care of me since I got admitted. She was the one who checked my vitals at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. She was the one who brought me extra blankets when I was shivering. "Elena," I said, my voice hoarse, "can I ask you something?" She looked at me with concern. "Of course. What do you need?" I hesitated. Then I said it. "Do you think I'm really dying?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "William, the doctors have done everything." "That's not what I asked." She paused. Then she sat down in the chair next to my bed. "What's going on?" I told her about Sophie's whisper, about the life insurance, about the way she'd been acting. Elena didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "What do you want to do?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I said, "I need your help. And in return, you'll never have to work another day in your life if you don't want to." She stared at me. "What are you asking me to do?" "Nothing illegal," I said. "Just play along. Help me see the truth." Elena sat back in her chair. She looked at the door, then back at me. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she said. "Tell me what you need." The next morning, Sophie came back to the hospital around 10. She was carrying a coffee from that place she likes, the expensive one downtown with the oat milk lattes and the avocado toast. She wasn't carrying anything for me. Not that I could eat much anyway, but still, I noticed. She sat down in the same chair she'd been in the night before. She looked tired, but not the kind of tired you get from crying all night over your dying husband. More like the tired you get from staying up late scrolling through your phone. "Hey, babe," she said softly, reaching for my hand. "How are you feeling?" I kept my eyes half closed. "Played weak." "Same," I whispered. "Tired." She nodded, squeezed my hand once, then let go to check her phone. I watched her through my eyelashes. She was texting someone. Her thumbs moved fast. She smiled at whatever response she got. Then she glanced at me to make sure I wasn't looking. I wasn't supposed to be. Dr. Patel came in a few minutes later. Elena was with him. She avoided eye contact with me, which was smart. We'd agreed on that last night. "Good morning, Mr. Whitaker," Dr. Patel said in that calm, clinical voice. "I wanted to check in on you. How's the pain?" "Bad," I said. It wasn't entirely a lie. Everything hurt, but I wasn't dying. Not yet, anyway. He examined me, checked the monitors, made notes on his tablet. Then he turned to Sophie. "Mrs. Whitaker, can I speak with you outside for a moment?" Sophie stood up immediately. "Of course." They stepped into the hallway. Elena adjusted my IV, leaning in close. "He's telling her your liver function is dropping faster than expected," she whispered. 3 days now, maybe less." I nodded slightly. "Thank you." She squeezed my shoulder once, then left. When Sophie came back into the room, her face was pale, but her eyes, they were bright, almost excited. "William," she said, sitting down and taking my hand again. "The doctor said, he said it's moving faster now." I looked at her. "How much faster?" 3 days, maybe 2. I closed my eyes, let my hand go limp in hers. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, but her voice didn't break. It didn't tremble. She stayed for another hour, mostly on her phone. Then she kissed my forehead and said she needed to go home and take care of some things. I knew what that meant. She was already planning my funeral. Let me tell you how I got here. Not the hospital. I mean, how I got to the point where I married someone who could whisper finally while I was supposedly dying. I grew up in a small town outside Portland. My dad was a contractor. My mom was a school teacher. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Dad taught me how to frame a house, how to read blueprints, how to negotiate with subcontractors who tried to lowball you. "Always trust your gut, Will," he'd say. "If something feels off, it probably is." I should have listened to that advice more carefully. I moved to Austin when I was 22. Got a job with a construction firm that specialized in commercial projects, office buildings, retail spaces, the kind of work that pays well if you're good at managing timelines and budgets. I was good at it. By the time I was 24, I was pulling in 6 figures. Not bad for a kid from Oregon who didn't go to college. I bought the house when I was 25. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garage big enough for my truck and my tools. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Fully paid off with the money I'd saved and a chunk I inherited when my grandfather passed. That house was my safety net, my pride, my proof that I'd made something of myself. Then I met Sophie. She moved into my life like she belonged there. She knew how to cook. She laughed at my stories from job sites. She got along with Cooper. She said she loved how hard I worked, how stable I was. Stable. That word should have been a red flag, but I was 23 and in love, and I didn't see it. The wedding was on a Saturday in October. We got married at a little chapel outside Austin. Sophie wore a white dress she'd found on sale. I wore the same suit I'd worn to my grandfather's funeral. Her family seemed nice enough. Her mom was quiet. Her dad shook my hand too hard and called me son. Her younger brother, Tyler, barely looked up from his phone the entire reception. My parents flew in from Oregon. My mom cried during the ceremony. My dad pulled me aside afterward and said, "She seems sweet, Will, but keep your eyes open. Marriage changes people." I laughed it off. "Dad, I know what I'm doing." He didn't say anything, just nodded. I wish I'd asked him what he meant. The first year of marriage was easy. Sophie kept the house clean. She cooked dinner most nights. We watched TV together. We talked about saving up for a bigger place, maybe starting a family in a few years. She didn't work much. She'd picked up a few shifts at a dental office, but she said the hours were bad and the pay was worse. I told her it was fine. I was making enough for both of us. "You're so good to me," she'd say, curling up next to me on the couch. And I believed her. But then little things started to shift. She started spending more. New clothes, new purse, a gym membership she used twice. When I asked about it, she'd say, "I deserve nice things too, don't I?" I couldn't argue with that. Then she started asking about my accounts. "How much do we have saved? What's the balance on the mortgage? Did you get that bonus you were expecting?" I told myself it was normal. Married couples share finances, right? But then she started talking about the life insurance. It started casually. We were watching some crime show on Netflix, and the wife in the episode got a big payout after her husband died. Sophie turned to me and said, "Do you have life insurance?" "No," I said. "Why would I? I'm 24. She frowned. "What if something happened to you? What would I do?" "You'd have the house, you'd have my savings, you'd be fine." But she kept bringing it up. Every few weeks. "Babe, I really think you should get a policy, just in case." Finally, I gave in. It was easier than arguing. $500,000, whole life policy, Sophie as the sole beneficiary. I signed the papers at the kitchen table on a Tuesday afternoon. She kissed me and made my favorite dinner that night, steak and mashed potatoes. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was protecting her. Now I know better. The infection started 3 weeks ago. I'd been on a job site downtown, supervising a crew that was pouring concrete for a new foundation. It was hot. I was tired. I didn't think much of it when I felt a little off that night. By the next morning, I had a fever, then chills, then I couldn't keep anything down. Sophie drove me to the ER. She held my hand in the waiting room. She told the nurses I was her husband and she wasn't leaving my side. They admitted me, ran tests, found the infection. Sepsis, they said. It had spread to my liver. The first few days were a blur. Antibiotics, IV fluids, doctors coming and going. Sophie was there every day. She brought me things from home. My favorite hoodie, my phone charger, a framed picture of us from our wedding day. She seemed worried. She seemed scared. But then I started noticing things. The way she'd perk up when the doctors delivered bad news. The way she'd check her phone constantly, texting someone she wouldn't name. The way she'd leave the room to take calls, her voice low and excited. And then, yesterday, Dr. Patel gave me the news. 4 days, maybe 5. Sophie cried. She held my hand. She said she didn't know how she'd go on without me. But when she thought I was asleep, she whispered, "Finally." That's when I knew. That's when I called Elena. That night, Elena came back to check on me after her shift was supposed to end. She closed the door behind her and sat down in the chair next to my bed. "I talked to Dr. Patel," she said quietly. "He's willing to help, but he wants to know what you're planning." I looked at her. "I need to know the truth. I need to see what Sophie does when she thinks I'm really dying." Elena nodded slowly. "And then what?" "Then I decide what to do next." She studied me for a long moment. "You're not dying, are you?" "No," I said. "The infection's bad, but they caught it in time. I'm responding to the antibiotics. I'll be fine in a week, maybe 2. Elena exhaled. "So, this whole thing is a test," I finished. "I need to see who she really is." Elena leaned back in her chair. "And if she fails?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Then I'll know I married the wrong person." She nodded. "Okay, I'll help you. But you owe me that explanation later, the one about never working again." I managed a small smile. "Deal." The next day, Sophie came in earlier than usual. 8 in the morning. She was wearing makeup, not the natural kind she usually wore around the house, but the full face, foundation, lipstick, the works. She had on a black dress I'd never seen before. "Morning, babe," she said, setting her purse down on the chair. I kept my breathing shallow, weak. Hey. She leaned down and kissed my forehead. Her lips felt cold. I brought you something, she said, pulling out her phone. I made a playlist. Thought it might help you relax. She hit play, some acoustic guitar song I didn't recognize. It was fine, I guess, but the whole thing felt performative, like she was checking boxes. Caring wife brings dying husband music. Check. Dr. Patel came in around 9. Elena was with him again. Mr. Whitaker, he said, his tone serious. I need to discuss your advance directive. Sophie sat up straighter. His what? His advance directive, Dr. Patel repeated. It's a legal document that outlines his wishes for end-of-life care. We need to make sure everything is in order. I saw Sophie's jaw tighten, just for a second. Then she smoothed her expression into concern. Of course, she said. Whatever William wants. Dr. Patel handed me a clipboard with papers attached. This is standard. It covers things like resuscitation preferences, organ donation, and who has the authority to make medical decisions if you're unable to. I took the pen with a shaky hand, played it up. Sophie, I whispered, you'll make the right choices, won't you? Her eyes got wet. She nodded quickly. Of course, honey. I promise. I signed the papers slowly, making it look like it took all my strength. When I handed the clipboard back to Dr. Patel, Sophie was staring at the forms like they were a lottery ticket. How long does he have now? She asked quietly. Dr. Patel glanced at me, then back at her. Based on his current decline, 48 hours, maybe less. Sophie's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God! But I saw it, just for a split second before she covered it up. She smiled. After Dr. Patel and Elena left, Sophie stayed for about 20 minutes. She held my hand. She told me she loved me. She said she'd been thinking about our wedding day, about how happy we were. I'm going to miss you so much, she said, her voice trembling, but her phone kept buzzing. Text after text. She kept glancing at it. Finally, she stood up. Babe, I need to run home for a bit. I have to take care of some things, paperwork, you know. I nodded weakly. Okay. She kissed my forehead again. I'll be back tonight. I promise. Then she left. The second the door closed, I opened my eyes fully. Elena came in 2 minutes later. She looked worried. She's moving fast, Elena said quietly. She asked the front desk about death certificates, about how long it takes to process them. I felt my jaw tighten. What else? Elena hesitated. She also asked about the hospital bill. Wanted to know if life insurance companies pay out before or after medical debts are settled. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Elena sat down. William, are you sure about this? If she finds out, she won't, I said. Not until I want her to. Elena looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, what do you need me to do? Keep playing along. Tell Dr. Patel to keep saying I'm getting worse. And I paused. I need you to do something else. What? I need you to watch her when she's here. Really watch her. If she does anything, makes a call, texts someone, says something when she thinks I'm asleep, I need to know about it. Elena nodded. I can do that. And Elena? I looked at her. Thank you for believing me. She gave me a small, sad smile. I've been a nurse for 12 years. I've seen a lot of families at their worst. But this, she shook her head. This is different. Yeah, I said quietly. It is. Let me tell you about the first crack. Not the one in the hospital. The one that happened 6 months ago. It was small. So small I almost didn't notice it. We were sitting at the kitchen table going over bills. Sophie had her laptop open, scrolling through our bank account. Babe, she said casually, why do you still have a separate savings account? I looked up from my phone. What do you mean? This one. She turned the laptop toward me. The one with $43,000 in it. Why isn't it in our joint account? I frowned. That's my emergency fund. I've had that account since before we got married. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. But we're married now. We're supposed to share everything, right? We do share everything, I said. But that money, it's for emergencies, in case something happens with work or the house. Her smile got tighter. What if something happens to us? What if I need it? Then we'll use it, I said. But it's safer to keep it separate, just in case. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she closed the laptop. Fine. Whatever you think is best. She didn't bring it up again. But I noticed things after that. She started checking the mail before I got home. She'd ask me about work bonuses before they were even official. She'd mention things like investment accounts and retirement funds in ways that felt calculated. And then there was the day I came home early from a job site. I'd forgotten my hard hat. Rookie mistake. I pulled into the driveway around 2 in the afternoon, expecting Sophie to be surprised to see me. She was on the phone in the kitchen. She didn't hear me come in. I know, she was saying. But it's not that simple. He's got everything in his name. The house, the accounts, everything. I froze in the hallway. I can't just leave, she continued. There's too much at stake. I need to be smart about this. Pause. Trust me. I've got a plan. I backed up slowly, opened the front door again, and slammed it loud. Babe, I'm home! When I walked into the kitchen, Sophie was smiling at me like nothing had happened. Her phone was face down on the counter. Hey, what are you doing back so early? Forgot my hat, I said, watching her carefully. She kissed me on the cheek. Want me to make you lunch? No, I'm good. I'll grab something on the way back. I left, got back in my truck, sat there for a full 5 minutes. I need to be smart about this. I've got a plan. I told myself I was overthinking it, that she was probably talking to a friend about something else, that I was being paranoid, but the feeling never went away. It just got buried under the day-to-day routine. Work, dinner, TV, sleep, until now. Until I heard her whisper finally while I was supposedly dying. That night, Elena came back around midnight. I was awake, staring at the ceiling, counting water stains again. Can't sleep? She asked softly. No. She pulled up a chair. Sophie left around 6. She hasn't come back yet. I turned to look at her. Did she say where she was going? Elena shook her head, but she was on the phone the entire time she was walking to her car. She seemed excited. I felt my chest tighten. Elena hesitated, then said, William, can I ask you something? Yeah. What are you going to do when this is over? When you prove she's... She trailed off. A liar? I finished. A fraud? Elena nodded. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, I'm going to make sure she doesn't get a single thing. Elena looked at me carefully. And then? And then I'm going to move on. With someone who actually gives a damn. She didn't say anything, but something passed between us in that moment. Understanding, maybe. Or just recognition that we were both tired of people who took more than they gave. Get some rest, Elena said, standing up. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Why? She gave me a small smile. Because Sophie asked the front desk what time visiting hours start. She wants to be here first thing in the morning. I nodded. She's making sure she's here when I die. Looks like it. After she left, I lay there in the dark. 48 hours. That's what Dr. Patel had told Sophie. 2 days until she thought she'd be free. 2 days until she thought she'd have my house, my money, my life insurance. 2 days until I pulled the rug out from under her. I closed my eyes. Finally, I thought. In 2 days, she'll get exactly what she deserves. Sophie showed up at 7 the next morning. I heard her heels clicking down the hallway before I saw her. Fast, purposeful steps. Not the slow, hesitant walk of someone visiting their dying husband. She came through the door with her phone in one hand and a coffee in the other. Same expensive place. Still nothing for me. Morning, babe, she said brightly. Too brightly. She set her coffee down and came over to kiss my forehead. I kept my eyes half closed, my breathing shallow. I'd been practicing this for 2 days now, playing dead before I was actually dead. How are you feeling? She asked, sitting down in the chair. Tired, I whispered. Everything hurts. She squeezed my hand once, then let go to check her phone. I watched her through my eyelashes. She was texting someone again. Her thumbs moved fast. She smiled at whatever response she got. Then she stood up. I'm going to grab a water. Be right back. The second she left, I opened my eyes. Elena slipped in almost immediately. We'd coordinated this. She knew Sophie's patterns now. Coffee run at 7:15, bathroom break at 8:30, lunch at noon, phone call in the parking lot at 2. Sophie was predictable. That was going to be her downfall. She's been making calls, Elena whispered, checking my vitals even though we both knew they were fine. I heard her on the phone yesterday afternoon in the family waiting room. She was talking about funeral arrangements. I felt my jaw tighten. What kind of arrangements? Cremation. Cheapest option, she said. No service. She told whoever she was talking to that you didn't have any close family, so there was no point in doing anything elaborate. I stared at the ceiling. I have parents. They're in Oregon. I know, Elena said softly. She's planning to cut them out completely. I closed my eyes. Not from weakness this time, from pure, cold rage. My parents loved Sophie. My mom had cried when we got engaged. My dad had welcomed her into the family with open arms, and now she was planning to have me cremated and erased like I'd never existed, without even telling them. What else? I asked, my voice tight. Elena hesitated. She asked about the life insurance payout timeline, wanted to know how long after the death certificate gets filed before the check comes through. How long? 30 to 60 days, usually. Faster if there's no investigation. I looked at her. Investigation? If the death is sudden or suspicious, insurance companies sometimes delay the payout while they review the claim. I nodded slowly. That was good to know. Sophie came back a minute later. Elena gave me a subtle nod and left the room. Sophie sat down with her water and her phone. She didn't look at me. She was scrolling through something. Instagram, maybe, or a shopping site. Every few seconds, she'd smile at the screen. Sophie, I whispered. She looked up, startled. Yeah, babe? If something happens to me... I paused, like it was hard to get the words out. You'll be okay, right? Her expression softened. She reached for my hand. Of course, honey. Don't worry about me. Just focus on resting. But the house, the bills, I don't want you to struggle. She squeezed my hand. I'll be fine. You made sure of that, remember? The life insurance. I nodded weakly. Yeah, 500,000. Her eyes lit up for just a second. Then she caught herself and looked sad again. I don't want to think about that right now. But you should, I said. You should make sure everything's in order, just in case. She bit her lip. I already did, actually. I called the insurance company yesterday. They said the policy is active and there shouldn't be any issues with the claim. Of course she did. That's good, I whispered. I'm glad you'll be taken care of. She smiled. A real smile this time. You're such a good man, William. I'm so lucky to have you. I wanted to laugh, or scream, but I just closed my eyes and let my hand go limp in hers. She stayed for another hour, mostly on her phone. Then she kissed my forehead and said she needed to run some errands. I'll be back later, she said. I love you. Love you too, I whispered. The door closed. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. She'd already called the insurance company. She was already planning the cremation. She was already spending the money in her head, and I was still alive. Let me tell you about compliance. That's what I'd been doing for 3 years. Complying. When Sophie wanted the joint bank account, I complied. When she wanted me to add her name to the utilities, I complied. When she wanted the life insurance policy, I complied. I told myself it was what married people did. You compromise. You make sacrifices. You put your partner's needs first. But looking back now, I realized something. It wasn't compromise. It was control. Sophie had been testing me from the beginning. Small requests at first. Innocent sounding. Reasonable. Babe, can you add me to your Amazon account? It's easier if we share Prime. Babe, can you put my name on the electric bill, just in case something happens and I need to call them? Babe, can you make me an authorized user on your credit card? We're married. We should share everything. One small thing after another. Each one building on the last. And I'd said yes every single time. Because I loved her. Because I wanted her to feel secure. Because I thought that's what good husbands did. But she wasn't building security. She was building access. Access to my accounts, my credit, my assets, my life. And I'd handed it all to her on a silver platter. I met Sophie on a Saturday in June. My buddy Marcus was throwing a barbecue at his place in South Austin. He'd just bought a house, a fixer-upper with a big backyard and a deck he'd built himself. He invited everyone he knew, friends from work, people from his gym, his girlfriend's friends. I almost didn't go. I'd been working 6 days a week on a big commercial project downtown, and I was exhausted. But Marcus insisted. Dude, you need a life outside of work, he'd said. Come hang out, drink a beer, meet some people. So I went. Sophie was sitting on the deck with a group of girls I didn't know. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and she was wearing a sundress. She was laughing at something one of her friends said. Her whole face lit up when she laughed. I grabbed a beer from the cooler and ended up standing near their group. One of the girls, Marcus's girlfriend, I think, introduced us. Sophie, this is Will. He's the guy I told you about. The one who builds stuff. Sophie smiled at me. Builds stuff? That's pretty vague. I laughed. I'm a project manager for a construction company. So yeah, I build stuff. Or at least I make sure other people build stuff correctly. She tilted her head. That sounds interesting. Do you like it? Most days, I said. It's good money. Keeps me busy. We ended up talking for the rest of the night. She told me she was a dental hygienist. She'd moved to Austin from Oklahoma 2 years ago because she wanted a change of pace. She liked hiking and trying new restaurants and watching true crime documentaries. She seemed normal. Sweet. Easy to talk to. When the party wound down, I asked for her number. She smiled and said, I was hoping you would. We went on our first date 3 days later. Dinner at a Mexican place on South Congress. She ordered queso and tacos and ate like a normal person, not like the girls I'd dated before who picked at salads and talked about carbs. She asked me about my job, about my family, about what I wanted out of life. I told her I wanted to own my own company someday, build custom homes, maybe get a little land outside the city, have a family. She smiled and said, that sounds really nice. On our third date, she told me she'd never felt this comfortable with anyone before. On our fifth date, she said she thought I might be the one. Looking back, I should have seen how fast she was moving, how quickly she locked me in. But I was 23 and lonely and tired of coming home to an empty house. I wanted someone to share my life with, and Sophie made me feel like I'd found her. 8 months later, I proposed. We were at Zilker Park, sitting on a blanket watching the sunset. I'd been carrying the ring around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. I turned to her and said, I know we haven't been together that long, but I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me? She started crying. Happy tears, I thought. She said yes. We got married 4 months after that. Small ceremony. Simple reception. It was perfect. Or at least I thought it was. The first 6 months of marriage were good. We fell into a rhythm. I worked long hours. She kept the house clean. We watched TV at night. We talked about the future. She mentioned wanting to quit her job a few times. Said the hours were terrible and the pay wasn't worth it. You don't have to work if you don't want to, I told her. I make enough for both of us. She hugged me and said, You're so good to me. She quit 2 weeks later. At first it was fine. She had more time to take care of the house. She cooked more. She seemed happy. But then she started spending more. New clothes, new shoes, a gym membership she used twice, subscription boxes that showed up every month filled with things she didn't need. When I asked about it, she'd get defensive. I'm not allowed to buy myself things? I didn't say that. I'm just saying we should be careful. We're trying to save up. We have plenty of money, William. You make 6 figures. Stop acting like we're broke. I let it go. It wasn't worth the fight. But then she started asking about my separate savings account, the one I'd had since before we got married. Why do you need a separate account? She asked one night. It's my emergency fund. I've always had it. But we're married. We should share everything. We do share everything. But that account is for emergencies. She got quiet. Didn't bring it up again. But I noticed her looking at bank statements when she thought I wasn't paying attention. I noticed her asking about my 401k. I noticed her mentioning life insurance more and more. What if something happens to you? She'd say. I'd be left with nothing. You'd have the house. You'd have everything. But what about money? What if I can't find a job right away? So I got the policy. $500,000. She was thrilled. She hugged me and said, Thank you for taking care of me. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was being a good husband. Now I know I was being an idiot. Dr. Patel came in around noon that day. Sophie had left to grab lunch, her third errand of the morning. She'd been gone for 40 minutes. I knew she wasn't eating. She was making phone calls, planning. Dr. Patel sat down in the chair next to my bed. Elena was with him. How are you holding up? He asked. I'm fine, I said. But I need to know, am I really dying or did you just tell her that to see how she'd react? Dr. Patel exchanged a look with Elena. Then he sighed. Mr. Whitaker, when you first came in, you were very sick. Sepsis is no joke, but the antibiotics are working. Your liver function is improving. You're going to be fine. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. So I'm not dying. No, you should make a full recovery in the next week or 2. Then why did you tell Sophie I only had 48 hours? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Because you asked me to. You said you needed to see how she'd react. So I told her what you wanted me to tell her. I nodded slowly. And she's reacted exactly the way you thought she would. Elena leaned forward. William, she's been asking everyone on this floor about death certificates, insurance claims, and how to transfer assets. She even asked if the hospital does estate consultations. I closed my eyes. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, Dr. Patel said quietly. I've been practicing medicine for 20 years. I've seen a lot of families go through a lot of difficult situations. But this, he shook his head, this is one of the worst. I looked at him. Thank you for helping me. I know you didn't have to. He nodded. What are you going to do now? I thought about it. Then I said, I'm going to let her think she's won. And then I'm going to take everything away from her. Elena smiled. Just a little. Good. That afternoon, Sophie came back around 3. She was wearing a different outfit. Black pants, black blouse, like she was already dressed for my funeral. "Hey, babe," she said, sitting down. "Sorry I was gone so long. I had to take care of some things." "It's okay," I whispered. "I'm just glad you're here." She smiled and took my hand. "I'll always be here. You know that." I wanted to tell her I knew she was lying. I wanted to tell her I knew about the phone calls and the insurance company and the cremation plans, but I didn't. Instead, I closed my eyes and said, "I'm scared, Sophie." Her grip on my hand tightened. "I know, honey. I know. I don't want to die." "You're not going to die," she said quickly. Too quickly, like she was reading from a script. "You're going to fight this. You're strong." But her voice had no conviction. She didn't believe what she was saying. She was just saying what she thought she was supposed to say. I opened my eyes and looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized something. I didn't recognize her anymore. The woman I'd married 3 years ago, or at least the woman I thought I'd married, was gone. Maybe she'd never existed in the first place. This woman sitting next to me, holding my hand and lying through her teeth, was a stranger. "Sophie," I said quietly. "Yeah? Do you love me?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Of course I do. Why would you ask that?" I need to hear you say it." She squeezed my hand and leaned in close. "I love you, William. More than anything." I looked into her eyes, searched for any trace of truth. There was nothing. "I love you too," I whispered. She smiled, kissed my forehead, then sat back and pulled out her phone. I closed my eyes again. 48 hours, I thought. Just 48 more hours and this whole nightmare will be over, but not the way she thought, not the way she planned. That night, after Sophie left, Elena came back. She sat down in the chair and looked at me for a long moment. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." She nodded. "What happens after this? After she realizes you're not dying?" I thought about it. Then I said, "I'm going to divorce her. I'm going to make sure she doesn't get a single thing from me. And then I'm going to move on with my life." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Yeah. Why did you marry her?" I stared at the ceiling. "Because I thought she loved me. Because I thought I'd found someone who wanted to build a life with me. Because I was tired of being alone. And now I know better." Elena nodded slowly. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. "For what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than most people would. A lot of guys would have confronted her by now, gotten angry, made a scene." "I thought about it," I admitted. "But anger doesn't solve anything. It just makes things messy." "So what does solve it?" I looked at her. "Strategy, patience, and making sure she can't hurt anyone else the way she tried to hurt me." Elena smiled. "You're smarter than you look." I laughed for the first time in days. "Thanks, I think." She stood up. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's the big day." "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow you die." I felt my chest tighten. And then you come back to life, and we see what she does." After she left, I lay there in the dark. Tomorrow, Sophie would think she'd finally gotten what she wanted. Tomorrow, she'd think she was free. Tomorrow, she'd think she'd won. But tomorrow, I was going to show her exactly what happens when you underestimate the man you tried to destroy. The next morning started earlier than I expected. 5:30. Still dark outside. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Fast, urgent. Then my door opened. It was Elena. She looked shaken. "William," she said quietly, closing the door behind her. "Sophie's here." I sat up slightly. "It's 5:30 in the morning. Why is she here?" Elena's jaw tightened. "She told the night nurse she couldn't sleep, that she needed to be with you." "But William," she paused. "She brought paperwork." "What kind of paperwork?" "I don't know. She has a folder with her, a thick one. She asked if you were awake. I told her you'd been unconscious since midnight." I nodded slowly. "Good. Let her think that." "What else?" Elena pulled out her phone. "I took pictures. When she went to the bathroom, I looked in her purse. She left it on the chair." She showed me the screen. There were photos of documents. I had to zoom in to read them, but when I did, my blood went cold. Transfer of deed forms for the house, power of attorney documents, a will, my will, that I'd never seen before, and a life insurance claim form already filled out, dated today, signed by Sophie. "Jesus Christ," I whispered. "There's more," Elena said. She swiped to the next photo. She has a list, handwritten. It's titled After. I looked at the list. After. 1. Call insurance company. Confirm payout timeline. 2. Transfer house deed. Lawyer app Tuesday. 3. Close joint accounts or transfer to personal. 4. Sell truck 15-20K. 5. Cremation, cheapest option 800. 6. Cancel his phone, utilities. 7. Pack his things, donate or trash. 8. Call Tyler, he can help move stuff. I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking. She's got it all planned out, I said quietly. Down to selling my truck. Elena put her phone away. William, I know we had a plan, but this is evidence of something worse. She's forging documents. That's fraud. That's illegal. I looked at her. Did you make copies of those photos? I sent them to my personal email, and I forwarded them to you. Good. We're going to need them. Elena sat down in the chair next to my bed. What do you want to do? We can stop this right now. We can call security, have her removed, report her to the police. No, I said firmly. Not yet. Why not? Because if we stop her now, she'll just say she was grieving. She was confused. She didn't know what she was doing. She'll cry and apologize and play the victim, and some judge will go easy on her. Elena stared at me. So what do you want to do? I took a deep breath. I want to let her finish. I want to see exactly how far she's willing to go. And then I want to make sure she never gets the chance to do this to anyone else. Elena looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Okay, but I'm staying close. If anything goes wrong, it won't, I said. Trust me. She left just as Sophie came back from the bathroom. Through the crack in the door, I watched Sophie sit down in the chair. She pulled the folder out of her bag and set it on her lap. Then she pulled out her phone and started texting someone. I closed my eyes and steadied my breathing. Shallow, weak. She didn't know I was watching. Let me tell you about the will. 3 years ago, right after we got married, Sophie had suggested we make wills. Just in case, she'd said. We're young, but you never know what could happen. I'd agreed. It seemed like a responsible thing to do. We'd gone to a lawyer's office in downtown Austin. A guy named Richard something. Sophie had found him online. Said he had good reviews. The meeting was straightforward. We each made simple wills. If something happened to me, everything went to Sophie. If something happened to her, everything went to me. Standard stuff. But now, looking at that photo Elena had taken, I realized something. That wasn't the will I'd signed 3 years ago. This one was different. The language was different. The signature looked close, but not quite right. She'd forged it, or had someone forge it for her. My mind raced back to that phone call I'd overheard 6 months ago. The one where Sophie had said, I can't just leave. There's too much at stake. I need to be smart about this. Trust me, I've got a plan. This was the plan. She wasn't just waiting for me to die. She was setting it up so that even if I didn't die, she could take everything anyway. The power of attorney, the forged will, the transfer of deed forms. She was going to take my house, my money, my life, and I'd almost let her do it. Sophie stayed until 7 that morning. I kept my eyes closed the whole time. I listened to her typing on her phone. I listened to her making quiet phone calls in the hallway. I listened to her come back in and shuffle papers. At one point, she leaned over me and whispered, It's almost over, babe. Just a little longer. It took everything I had not to open my eyes and tell her exactly what I thought of her, but I didn't. I stayed still, stayed quiet. When she finally left around 7:15, Elena came back in immediately. She's gone, Elena said, but she told the nurses she'd be back around noon. She said she wanted to be there when it happens. I opened my eyes. When what happens? When you die. I sat up fully. My body ached from lying still for so long, but I ignored it. Elena, I need you to do something for me. What? I need you to call Dr. Patel. Tell him it's time. Time for what? Time to let Sophie think she's won. Dr. Patel came in around 8:30. He looked tired. He'd been in on this plan for 3 days now, and I knew it was weighing on him. Doctors don't like lying. It goes against everything they're trained to do, but he'd seen the same things Elena had seen. He'd watched Sophie ask about insurance payouts and death certificates. He'd heard her on the phone planning my cremation. He knew what kind of person she was. Are you sure about this? He asked, sitting down. I'm sure, I said. What do I need to do? He pulled out a small vial from his pocket. This is a sedative. It'll slow your heart rate and make you appear unconscious. Your vitals will drop enough to make it look like you're in the final stages, but you'll be aware of everything. You'll be able to hear and feel, but you won't be able to move or respond. I stared at the vial. How long does it last? 4 to 6 hours. After that, you'll wake up naturally, and Sophie will think I'm dying. Yes, I nodded. Do it. Elena stepped forward. William, are you absolutely sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. She's going to react, and we don't know how. I'm sure, I said firmly. I need to see it. I need to see what she does when she thinks she's finally free. Dr. Patel and Elena exchanged a look. Then he uncapped the vial and drew the liquid into a syringe. This is going to feel strange, he warned. Your body will feel heavy. Your thoughts will slow down, but you'll still be conscious. Just trapped inside yourself. I understand. He injected the sedative into my IV line. Almost immediately, I felt the effects. My limbs grew heavy. My vision blurred at the edges. My heartbeat slowed. I could feel it thudding slower and slower in my chest. The machines around me started beeping differently. The heart monitor showed a dropping rhythm. Elena adjusted the settings to make it look worse than it was. Dr. Patel checked my pulse. Okay, he said quietly. You're under. When Sophie comes back, I'll tell her you're in the final hours, maybe minutes. I wanted to respond. I wanted to nod, but I couldn't move. I could only lie there, waiting. Sophie came back at 11:45. I heard her heels clicking down the hallway, faster than usual. She was excited. The door opened. Dr. Patel, she said, her voice breathless. How is he? Mrs. Whitaker, Dr. Patel said gravely. I'm glad you're here. His vitals have dropped significantly in the last hour. His heart rate is very low. His breathing is shallow. I'm afraid we're looking at minutes now, not hours. There was a pause. Then Sophie said, Oh my God, but her voice didn't break. She didn't cry. She sounded relieved. I heard her sit down in the chair next to my bed. She took my hand. Her grip was firm, almost possessive. I'm here, babe, she said softly. I'm here. Dr. Patel cleared his throat. I'll give you some privacy. If anything changes, press the call button. Thank you, doctor, Sophie said. The door closed. And then it was just me and her. I could feel her hand in mine. I could hear her breathing. I could smell her perfume. But I couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes, couldn't speak. I was trapped inside my own body, listening. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she let go of my hand and stood up. I heard her pull out her phone. Hey, she said quietly. It's me. Yeah, it's happening. The doctor said it's any minute now. Pause. I know, trust me, I'm ready. Pause. I already have everything prepared. The paperwork's done. The lawyer's on standby. I can file for the insurance payout tomorrow morning. My chest tightened. If I could have moved, I would have opened my eyes right then. No, he doesn't suspect anything, Sophie continued. He thought he was being such a good husband, protecting me, providing for me. She laughed. Actually laughed. God, he was so easy. I felt rage building inside me, but I couldn't express it. I just had to lie there and listen. Tyler's going to help me clear out the house this weekend, she said. We'll sell the truck, donate his clothes, get rid of anything I don't need. I'll keep the house, obviously. It's worth at least $350, maybe $400, plus the $500 from insurance. I'll be set. Pause. What? No. No service. No funeral. Just cremation. Cheapest option. There's no point in wasting money on that. His parents can deal with their grief on their own time. I'm not spending my money on a show for people I barely know. My money. She'd already decided it was hers. Look, I gotta go, Sophie said. I'll call you when it's done. Yeah. Love you too. She hung up. Then she sat back down, took my hand again. Come on, William, she whispered. Just let go. It's okay. You can let go now. She wasn't comforting me. She was telling me to hurry up and die. 20 minutes later, Dr. Patel came back in. Mrs. Whitaker, he said quietly. I'm very sorry, but he's gone. I heard Sophie gasp, but it sounded fake, rehearsed. No, she said. No, he can't be. I'm so sorry for your loss, Dr. Patel said. We did everything we could. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, What do I need to do now? For the death certificate? Even Dr. Patel paused at that. We'll take care of the paperwork. It usually takes 24 to 48 hours to process. And then I can file the insurance claim? Another pause. Yes, once you have the certificate. Okay, Sophie said. Her voice was steady, businesslike. Okay, thank you, doctor. Dr. Patel left. Sophie sat there for another minute. Then she stood up. She didn't cry. She didn't say goodbye. She just grabbed her purse and her folder and walked out. I heard the door close. And then I heard something else. Footsteps. Coming back. The door opened. It was Elena. She's gone, Elena whispered. William, can you hear me? I couldn't respond. but inside, I was screaming. "The sedative will wear off in about 3 hours," Elena said. "I'm going to stay with you. Dr. Patel is writing up fake discharge paperwork. When you wake up, we're getting you out of here before she comes back." She squeezed my hand. "You were right," she said quietly. "She's worse than we thought." I knew. I'd just heard it with my own ears. Sophie didn't love me. She never had. I was just a paycheck to her. A life insurance policy. A house she could sell. And now that she thought I was dead, she was already moving on. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. And when I came back, when I showed her I was still alive, she was going to lose everything. Not me. Her. I woke up 4 hours later. The sedative wore off slowly. First my fingers, then my toes, then my arms and legs. It felt like coming back to life after being buried alive. Elena was sitting in the chair next to my bed. When she saw my eyes open, she leaned forward. "Welcome back," she said softly. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. She handed me a cup of water with a straw. I drank slowly. "How long was I out?" I asked, my voice hoarse. 4 hours and 17 minutes. Sophie left about 3 hours ago. She hasn't come back. I sat up slowly. My whole body ached. "Did she say anything else after I died?" Elena's jaw tightened. She asked the front desk about morgue procedures, about how long it takes to release a body for cremation. Then she got on the phone in the parking lot. I couldn't hear everything, but she was laughing. Laughing. My wife thought I was dead and she was laughing. "Where's Dr. Patel?" I asked. "Writing your discharge papers. As far as the hospital records are concerned, you made a miraculous recovery. Your infection responded to treatment faster than expected. It happens sometimes." I nodded. "And the death certificate?" "Never filed. It doesn't exist. Sophie's going to show up tomorrow expecting to pick it up, and they're going to tell her there was a mistake." I almost smiled. Almost. "What about the photos you took, the documents in her purse?" Elena pulled out her phone. "Already sent to your email, and I made backup copies. Those forgeries she has, power of attorney, transfer of deed, that fake will, that's fraud, William. That's criminal." "I know. So what are you going to do?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd barely known me a week ago had risked her career to help me, had stayed by my side, had believed me when she had no reason to. "First," I said, "I'm going to get out of this hospital. Then I'm going to call a lawyer. Then I'm going to make sure Sophie can't hurt anyone else the way she tried to hurt me." Elena nodded. "And then?" "And then I'm going to file for divorce and make sure she walks away with nothing." "Good," Elena said. "She deserves it." Dr. Patel came in a few minutes later with the discharge papers. "You're officially alive and recovering," he said, handing me the clipboard. "Sign here." I signed. "For what it's worth," Dr. Patel said, "I've never done anything like this before, and I probably never will again, but I'm glad I did it. That woman," he shook his head, "she's dangerous." "I know," I said. "Thank you for helping me see it." He nodded. "Take care of yourself, Mr. Whitaker." After he left, Elena helped me get dressed. My clothes felt loose. I'd lost weight in the past week. "Where are you going to go?" she asked. "My buddy Marcus has a place. I'll crash there for a few days while I figure things out." "And Sophie?" "She thinks I'm dead. Let's keep it that way for now." Elena walked me out through a back exit. We didn't want to risk running into Sophie if she decided to come back. When we got to the parking lot, Elena stopped. "William," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Yeah." "When this is all over, what happens to us?" I looked at her. She'd helped save my life. She'd seen me at my worst, and she'd never asked for anything in return. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I'd like to find out." She smiled. Just a little. "Me too." Marcus picked me up 20 minutes later. He pulled up in his truck, took one look at me and said, "Dude, you look like hell." "Thanks," I said, climbing in. Elena called me, told me everything. Well, not everything, but enough. I leaned my head back against the seat. "I need a place to stay for a few days, just until I sort this out." "You got it. Guest room's yours as long as you need it." We drove in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "So Sophie really thought you were dying and she was already planning to cash in?" "Yeah." "Jesus Christ, man. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm glad I found out now instead of in 10 years. Marcus glanced at me. "What are you going to do?" "Divorce her. Make sure she gets nothing. Maybe press charges for the forged documents." He nodded. "Good. She deserves it." We pulled up to his house. It was small, but it felt safe. I went inside, took a shower, and collapsed on the guest bed. For the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, I called a lawyer. His name was David Chen. Marcus had recommended him, said he was a pit bull in the courtroom. I told him everything. The hospital, the test, the forged documents, the phone call, the life insurance. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Mr. Whitaker, this is one of the most clear-cut cases of fraud and attempted theft I've ever seen. With the evidence you have, we can not only get you a divorce, we can make sure she faces criminal charges. How long will it take? Depends on how she responds. But with photos of forged documents, with recordings of her making plans, she won't have a leg to stand on." "Good," I said. "Let's do it." "One more thing," David said. "Where is she right now? Does she know you're alive?" "No. She thinks I'm dead. She's probably at the hospital right now trying to get my death certificate." David laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, this is going to be good." Sophie showed up at the hospital at 9 that morning. Elena texted me. "She's here." She looks confused. 10 minutes later, she's yelling at the front desk. They told her there's no death certificate. She's demanding to speak to Dr. Patel. 15 minutes later, "Doctor, Patel just told her you made a full recovery and were discharged yesterday." She went pale. I could picture it. The shock, the panic, the realization that her plan had fallen apart. Elena texted again. "She's calling someone. She looks scared." Good. She should be scared. Because in 3 days she was going to get served with divorce papers. And in 3 days she was going to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate the man you tried to destroy. Sophie found me on the 3rd day. I was at Marcus's place sitting on the back deck with a beer when my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer. But I wanted to hear her voice. I wanted to hear her scramble for an explanation. I answered. "William?" Her voice was shaky, scared. "William, oh my God, where are you? I went to the hospital and they said you were discharged. They said you were alive. I don't understand what happened." "Stop," I said calmly. She went quiet. "I know everything, Sophie." Silence. "I know about the forged documents, the fake will, the power of attorney, the phone calls, the list in your purse. I know what you said when you thought I was dying." "William, I don't know what you're talking about." Finally, "In 4 days, everything will be mine." I repeated her words back to her. Cold, exact. "That's what you said. When you thought I only had 4 days to live." I heard her breathing quicken. "I was there, Sophie. I heard you. I heard you laugh. I heard you tell whoever you were talking to that I was so easy. I heard you plan my cremation so you could save money. I heard all of it. William, please. You don't understand. I was scared. I was confused." "No," I cut her off. "You were planning. You've been planning this for months, maybe longer, and you almost got away with it." Her voice changed, got harder. "What do you want?" "I want a divorce, and I want you out of my house by the end of the week." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Your house? William, I'm your wife. That's our house. You can't just kick me out." "Actually, I can. The house is in my name. Only my name. You never got added to the deed, remember? I bought it before we got married." Silence. "And those forged documents you have? The ones transferring the deed to your name? Those are fraud, criminal fraud. My lawyer has copies. So do the police." "You're lying. Try me." Another long silence. Then she said, "You son of a bitch. Be out by Friday, Sophie. Or I'll have the police remove you. And trust me, you don't want that on your record when the fraud charges come through." I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From rage I'd been holding in for days. Marcus came out onto the deck. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm good." Sophie didn't leave quietly. She showed up at the house on Thursday with her brother Tyler and a moving truck. I wasn't there. Marcus and I were meeting with David Chen, going over the divorce papers. But my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, called me. "William, that wife of yours is loading up a truck. She's taking everything, the TV, the couch, your tools from the garage." "Call the police," I said. "Tell them she's stealing my property." 20 minutes later, Sophie was in handcuffs on my front lawn. The police found the forged documents in her car, the fake will, the power of attorney, the transfer of deed forms. They also found a bag with $15,000 in cash, money she'd withdrawn from our joint account that morning. Tyler tried to argue that it was a misunderstanding, that Sophie had a right to take things from the house. The police didn't buy it. Sophie was arrested for fraud, attempted theft, and forgery. I got the call an hour later. "Mr. Whitaker," the officer said, "your wife is being held at Travis County Jail. Bond set at $50,000. Do you want to post it?" "No," I said. "I don't." "Understood. She'll have a hearing on Monday." I hung up. Marcus looked at me. You really letting her sit in jail? Yeah, I said. I am. Because for 3 years she'd been building a cage for me, trapping me with fake love and forged documents and plans to take everything. Now she could see what a real cage felt like. Sophie's family tried to contact me over the weekend. Her mother called first, left a voicemail crying, saying this was all a misunderstanding, that Sophie was a good girl who'd made mistakes. Then her brother Tyler texted, "You're a piece of shit for doing this to her." I deleted it. Then her father called. His voice was hard, angry. "You set her up," he said. "You faked being sick just to trap her." "No," I said calmly. "I was actually sick. I just let her think I was dying to see what she'd do. And she showed me exactly who she is. She's your wife. She forged legal documents to steal my house. She planned my funeral before I was even dead. She called me easy on the phone while I was supposedly dying. That's who your daughter is." He hung up. I blocked all their numbers. Monday morning, Sophie had her bail hearing. David Chen called me afterward. "The judge denied bail reduction," he said. "With the forged documents and the cash she tried to take, they're considering her a flight risk. She'll stay in custody until trial." "How long?" 4 to 6 weeks, probably. But here's the good news. She's already trying to make a deal. Her public defender contacted me. She wants to avoid trial. "What kind of deal?" "She'll sign the divorce papers, give up any claim to your assets, plead guilty to the fraud charges in exchange for probation instead of jail time." I thought about it. "And if we go to trial?" "She could get 2 to 5 years. But trials take time, cost money, and there's always risk." "I want her to sign the papers," I said. "But I'm not dropping the charges. She needs to face consequences." David was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Fair enough. I'll tell her lawyer. But William, you won. She's got nothing. No house, no money, no life insurance. And she's got a criminal record now. She's already lost." "Good," I said, "because she'd tried to bury me. And now she was the one underground." That afternoon, Elena came by Marcus's place. She knocked on the door holding a pizza box and a 6-pack. "Figured you could use some company," she said. Marcus took the hint. "I'm gonna go run some errands. You two have fun." After he left, Elena and I sat on the couch. We ate pizza and drank beer and didn't talk about Sophie for a while. "How are you holding up?" she finally asked. "Better than I expected," I said. "I thought I'd feel guilty or sad, but I don't. Because she deserves it." "Yeah." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "When you first asked me to help you in the hospital, I thought you were crazy. I thought you were paranoid. But the more I watched her," she shook her head, "I've seen people grieve. I've seen people fall apart when someone they love is dying. Sophie wasn't grieving. She was excited. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen." "I know," I said quietly. "You did the right thing," Elena said, "exposing her, making sure she can't do this to someone else." I looked at her. "Thank you for believing me. I couldn't have done this without you." She smiled. "You're welcome." We sat there for a while, just being quiet, comfortable. Then Elena said, "So what happens now? After all this is over?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I guess I start over. New life, new perspective. New person?" she asked carefully. I looked at her, really looked at her. "Maybe," I said, "if she's interested." Elena's smile got wider. "She might be." 2 weeks later, Sophie signed the papers. David called me with the news. "It's done," he said. "She signed the divorce agreement. No alimony, no asset split, no claims to the house or your accounts. She also pled guilty to fraud and forgery. She'll get 3 years probation and community service. No jail time, but it's on her record permanently." "Good," I said. "You're officially free, William." I hung up and sat there for a moment. 3 years of my life, gone. But at least I was still standing. At least I still had everything I'd worked for. At least I knew the truth. A week after that, I moved back into my house. Marcus helped me clean the place. Sophie had trashed it before she tried to rob it. Broke some dishes, ripped up photos, left garbage everywhere. "She really went scorched earth," Marcus said, sweeping up broken glass. "Doesn't matter," I said. "She's gone. That's all that matters." We spent the afternoon putting the place back together. When we were done, it felt like mine again. That night, Elena came over. She brought dinner, tacos from that place on South Congress. We sat on my back porch, eating and talking and watching the sun go down. "This is nice," she said. "Yeah," I agreed. "It is." "Can I ask you something?" Elena said. "Sure. Do you think you'll ever trust someone again after everything Sophie did?" I thought about it. "I don't know. but I think I'm willing to try. She looked at me. With the right person? Yeah, I said. With the right person. Elena smiled, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled back. Because Sophie had tried to destroy me. She'd tried to take my house, my money, my life, but she'd failed. And now I had something she'd never given me, a real chance at happiness. 3 months later, I heard what happened to Sophie. Not from her. I'd blocked her number, her email, everything. But word gets around in a city like Austin. Marcus heard it from his girlfriend, who heard it from someone who knew Tyler. Sophie had moved back to Oklahoma, back to her parents' house. She couldn't find work. Turns out having fraud and forgery on your record makes it hard to get hired anywhere that does background checks. The dental offices wouldn't touch her. Neither would the retail stores or the restaurants she applied to. Her parents were supporting her. But from what Marcus heard, they weren't happy about it. Apparently her dad kicked her out twice, Marcus said. She keeps coming back because she's got nowhere else to go. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd planned to have me cremated for $800 and laugh about it with whoever she was sleeping with behind my back. She got exactly what she deserved. Tyler tried one last time to get money from me. He showed up at my house on a Saturday morning. I was in the garage working on my truck. "William," he said, "we need to talk." I looked up. "No, we don't. Sophie's struggling, man. She can't find work. She's broke. You took everything from her." "I took what was mine," I said calmly. "She tried to steal it. There's a difference. She's family. She's a criminal," I cut him off. "And if you're here asking for money, the answer is no." Tyler's jaw tightened. "You're a cold son of a bitch, you know that?" "Maybe," I said, "but I'm not a thief. Now get off my property." He left. I never heard from any of them again. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into someone who'd known Sophie before I did. A woman named Rachel. She'd worked with Sophie at the dental office years ago. We were at a coffee shop downtown. She recognized me. "You're William, right? Sophie's ex-husband?" "Yeah," I said carefully. She sat down without asking. "I need to tell you something. I should have told you years ago, but I didn't know how." "What?" Rachel took a breath. "Sophie did this before. To another guy. His name was Derek. They dated for about 2 years. She moved in with him, got him to put her name on his bank accounts, convinced him to take out a life insurance policy with her as the beneficiary." I felt my chest tighten. Then one day, Derek got in a car accident. Nothing major, broken leg, concussion. He was in the hospital for a week. Sophie visited once. Then she cleaned out his accounts and disappeared. Took $40,000. Jesus Christ. He tried to press charges, but she'd already spent the money. He couldn't prove she'd planned it, and he was too embarrassed to push it further. Rachel looked at me. "When I heard she married you, I wanted to warn you, but I didn't think you'd believe me. I didn't think anyone would." "I believe you," I said. Rachel nodded. "I'm glad you got out. Derek wasn't so lucky. After she left, I sat there for a long time. Sophie hadn't just tried to destroy me. I was just the next one. And if I hadn't tested her, if I hadn't pretended to be dying, she would have succeeded. A year after the divorce, my life looked completely different. I'd gotten a promotion at work, senior project manager, better pay, better projects. I'd started going to the gym again, lost the weight I'd gained lying in that hospital bed. And Elena had moved in 6 months ago. We'd taken it slow. No rushing, no pressure. Just 2 people who'd been through hell and decided they deserved something good. She still worked at the hospital, but she'd switched to day shifts so we could have evenings together. We cooked dinner together, watched movies, took Cooper for walks in the park. It was simple, easy, real. One night we were sitting on the back porch, the same place I'd sat with Sophie years ago, though it felt like a completely different life now. "Can I ask you something?" Elena said. "Sure. Do you ever think about her, about Sophie?" I thought about it. Sometimes, but not the way you think. I don't miss her. I don't wonder what if. I just think about how close I came to losing everything. Elena nodded. "Do you regret marrying her?" "No," I said, "because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have learned what I learned. I wouldn't know what real love isn't, and I wouldn't have met you." She smiled. "That's a good answer. It's the truth." We sat there in comfortable silence for a while. Then Elena said, "You know what the best revenge is?" "What?" "Living well, being happy, moving on while she's still stuck in the mess she made." I looked at her. "You're right. I usually am," she said with a grin. I laughed, and it felt good, because Sophie had tried to bury me, but I was still here, still standing, still building a life worth living, and she was the one who'd lost everything, not because I destroyed her, but because she destroyed herself. That's how karma works. You don't have to do anything. You just have to let people show you who they really are, and then let the consequences do the rest. 2 years after everything happened, I sold the house. Not because I had to, not because of bad memories, but because Elena and I were ready to build something new together. We found a place outside the city, more land, room for Cooper to run, a workshop where I could work on projects, a garden where Elena could grow vegetables. It felt like a fresh start. The day we moved in, I stood in the driveway and looked at the house, our house, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry about what Sophie did, if I'm bitter, if I wish things had been different. The truth is, I'm not angry anymore. I was, at first, when I heard her whisper finally in that hospital room, when I listened to her laugh on the phone, when I watched her try to steal everything I'd worked for. But anger is exhausting, and holding on to it would have meant she still had power over me. So I let it go, not for her sake, for mine. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that love isn't just words, it's actions, it's consistency, it's showing up even when things are hard. I learned that trust is earned, not given, and that's not cynical, it's just realistic. I learned that when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. And I learned that the right person won't make you feel like you need to test them, because their actions will speak louder than any test ever could. Elena never asked me for access to my accounts. She never pushed me to add her name to anything. She never talked about my money like it was hers. She just showed up, every day, in small ways and big ways. That's how I knew she was different. That's how I knew she was real. Last month I got a message request on social media. It was from Sophie. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. William, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything I did. I was selfish and cruel, and I hurt you in ways I can't take back. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I've had a lot of time to think about who I was back then, and I'm ashamed. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated. Take care. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because I didn't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not closure, not a response. She'd made her choices, and she'd have to live with them. I had my own life to live. These days, my life is simple. I wake up next to someone who actually loves me. I go to work and build things I'm proud of. I come home to a house that feels like home. I have friends who have my back. A dog who's always happy to see me. A future that feels bright instead of heavy. Sophie tried to take all of that from me. She tried to reduce me to a paycheck, a life insurance policy, a house she could sell. But she failed, because I saw through her, because I was smart enough to test her, because I was strong enough to walk away. And now, 2 years later, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. That's the thing about karma. It doesn't always happen the way you think it will. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just the simple fact that good people move forward and bad people stay stuck. Sophie's stuck. I'm not. And that's enough. If you're listening to this and you've been through something similar, if someone you trusted tried to destroy you, I want you to know something. You're not stupid for trusting them. You're not weak for not seeing it sooner. You're human. And the fact that you trusted someone says more about your character than their betrayal says about theirs. But here's what I learned. Protecting yourself isn't the same as closing yourself off. You can be careful without being cynical. You can set boundaries without building walls. You can love someone without losing yourself. And if someone can't respect that, if someone tries to manipulate you or control you or take from you, walk away, because you deserve better. You deserve someone who sees your success and celebrates it, not someone who sees it and plans how to take it. You deserve someone who holds your hand when you're dying, not someone who whispers finally when they think you can't hear. You deserve peace, real peace. And sometimes getting there means letting go of the people who only ever brought you chaos. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. If this story hit home, I hope it reminded you that you're stronger than you think, that you're worth protecting, and that the right person, the real person, is out there. You just have to be patient enough to find them, and brave enough to walk away from the ones who aren't. Take care of yourself.